Pseudo rights. It's always bewildered me. Americans feel that they actually have rights. After almost 40 years of living, I still find it bewildering that most Americans believe this. It's almost like believing in Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy at this point. For example, we had this idea of free speech. As we've seen in the past few years, or decades for that matter, free speech is nothing more than a facade. Look at how protesters and activists have been targeted by law enforcement in the way of extreme violence. I have witnessed this personally. I was an activist during the summer of 2020, and I saw how police officers were instructed by politicians and other forms of law enforcement to attack us, just for marching in the street and chanting. But this also isn't limited to left-wing or black movements. I have to be fair, this does happen to people on the right as well. This happens to all demographics, left, right, center, black, white, LGBT, men, women, non-conforming. It especially happens to anyone who is willing to question the narratives that have been made for us. If free speech was so real, how could it be taken away so easily? I'll explain to you. Simple. A pseudo right. A false right. That's all that free speech is. I know that we've been told different, but if free speech could be taken away or manipulated so easy, it's not really a right. It's a pseudo right. Then there are the courts. We've witnessed for decades how courts on a state and federal level have railroaded citizens. We've witnessed how prosecutors hide evidence while overcharging us at the same time. And when the courts are caught, they never accept guilt. That's right. When the courts are caught committing crimes, they'll never hold themselves accountable the same way they hold us accountable. It's not often that criminals will hold themselves accountable. At least that's what we've been told. I believe it's easier to build a noodle bridge to Mars than it is to find a prosecutor guilty of prosecutorial misconduct. In the American injustice system, you will not get a fair chance, because the injustice system has billions of your tax dollars stacked against you. The average person cannot afford a $10,000 attorney or a retainer for one. But with a small percentage of your tax money, the government will provide to you an attorney that is either overworked or is best friends with the prosecutors, cool with the judges, or like in my case, a public defender who is more interested in ending your case so she doesn't have to go to trial. A public defender who, even after I asked multiple times to withdraw my plea and to take it to trial, always found some way out of it. You don't have the option of a fair trial when it comes to state and federal courts. That's not your right. I know that you're told that it's your right, but believe me, it's nothing but a pseudo right, a false right, something that is not real. We don't even have the right to privacy. I know that we are told that we are, but the all-seeing eye is always there. Right now, across our cities, there are drones monitoring everything that we do. We can even have an innocent walk down the street without videos or pictures being taken of us from a government-provided camera. The government in bipartisanship says it's for the protection of us, all while many of us know that it's actually for control. These same government tools are used to monitor and control what we see. They control what we hear. And if what people say doesn't fit the government narrative, they will censor us or label us misinformation, disinformation, or even malinformation. If you really had the right to privacy, could it be taken away so easily? Everything that we do is monitored. Our phone calls, our chat messages, our mail, anything. But we believe that we have privacy. If we had privacy, could it be taken away so easily? If privacy was a right, would we be monitored? No, we wouldn't. Privacy is a pseudo right, a false right. It's not real. In America, we don't even have the full right to our own property. At any point, law enforcement, in cohesion with the courts, can charge us with a crime and say it's part of a larger network and confiscate everything that we have. Through civil asset forfeiture, a person might have to fight for years to prove that they were unjustly targeted. It might take years to get their money back, their belongings. By this time, they spent more than thousands of dollars to fight a corrupt government. And this will be done with our tax dollars. Our belongings will be stolen with our tax dollars. And with what little money we have left, either they come from family members, friends, or even people giving donations, we will need to use American tax dollars to fight for the property and money that state and the federal government have stolen from us. If we had the right to our own property, could it be taken so easily? If we could have property, could it be taken so easily? That's just it. It's not a right. It's a pseudo right. A false right. It's not real. To some of us, this might seem troubling, but it's the truth. It always has been. I know that since our birth in this country, we've been told about all these great rights that we have, all these great rights that people in the past fought for. But let's remember, many of those people were murdered and killed because they tried to show that these were supposed to be rights. But they were never really rights. They were false rights. They were never real. They weren't supposed to be real, at least not for us. These were nothing but pseudo rights. We're also told that the government can be transparent, yet they aren't. If we're promised the right of transparency by our government and we don't get it, that's further proof that we have nothing but pseudo rights. They're not real. But this doesn't have to be permanent for us. Our government and those that they work for have taken their shroud off. Every day they're exposing themselves for who they are. And we should be grateful to this. Because this means for some time we've been dealing with these pseudo rights. But as more of us wake up and see things, we know pseudo rights are not enough. We want something real that's not fake. Something that we can feel, acknowledge, hear, see. Not a pseudo right, but a true right. But we cannot get that through electoral politics alone. I believe it's time that we use other avenues to getting our rights. I think it's time that we take our rights from them, even if this does take some time. It's not going to be easy, but it will be worth it. We need this for ourselves, our friends, our family, our children. We need this for the future. And if it doesn't happen in our lifetime, which I do believe it will happen shortly after some of us perish. But at least we know that we laid the groundwork for what's coming, either in our lifetime or shortly after.